February 21st, 2026, 1958 local time. The Gulf of Oman. The USS Spruance is taking on water. A Zafar anti-ship missile. A weapon American intelligence didn't know existed until 10 minutes ago, has punched through her hull below the waterline. The breach is 3 meters wide. The sea is rushing in at a rate of 500 gallons per minute. Damage control teams are fighting to save the ship. The wounded are being evacuated from flooded compartments. The dead, they're already dead, are being left where they fell. There's no time to recover bodies when you're trying to keep 9,200 tons of warship from sinking. I'm your host at U.S. Defense Review, where we analyze the military operations that define our world. The July 2nd engagement introduced a new Iranian weapon to the battlefield. The Zafar, victory in Farsi, was a surprise that cost American lives. But 31 minutes after the impact, the facility that built the Zafar would cease to exist. Let's understand what happened. The USS Spruance was conducting anti-submarine operations in the Gulf of Oman, approximately 85 nautical miles from the Iranian coast. She was part of the Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group's outer screen, protecting the carrier from subsurface threats. Her crew was focused on the underwater domain. Sonobuoys deployed, dipping sonar active, helicopter airborne with acoustic sensors. They weren't expecting a surface-launched missile attack from that range. Neither was anyone else. The Zafar missile was Iran's newest anti-ship weapon, a design that combined elements of Chinese, Russian, and indigenous technology. Range, estimated 300 kilometers. Speed, Mach 2.8, significantly faster than the subsonic cruise missiles Iran had used in previous attacks. Warhead, 200 kilograms. American intelligence had tracked the Zafar's development, but believed it was still in testing. The assessment was that operational deployment was 12 to 18 months away. The assessment was wrong by 12 to 18 months. At 1951, a Zafar missile launched from a position near Jask, one of Iran's primary naval bases on the Gulf of Oman. The target, the USS Spruance, 78 nautical miles to the south. The Spruance's AN/SPY-1D radar detected the launch at 1951-24. The missile was climbing, accelerating, following a semi-ballistic trajectory that would bring it down toward the destroyer at high supersonic speed. Time to impact, approximately 147 seconds, less than 2.5 minutes. The Combat Information Center responded with trained efficiency, threat classification, hostile, fire control solution, calculated, weapons release, authorized within 8 seconds of detection. 2 SM-6 missiles launched at 1951-34. The SM-6 was the only interceptor in the American inventory capable of engaging high-speed, high-altitude targets like the Zafar. But the SM-6 had never been tested against this specific threat profile. The engagement parameters were theoretical. Theory met reality at 1953-41. The first SM-6 reached its calculated intercept point. The Zafar was descending at Mach 2.8, its trajectory shifting as it transitioned from ballistic to terminal guidance. The SM-6's seeker struggled to track the rapidly maneuvering target. The intercept geometry was at the edge of the missile's capability. Proximity detonation. Fragments struck the Zafar, damage to the airframe, but the weapon kept coming. The second SM-6 engaged 7 seconds later. The Zafar was lower now, faster, entering its terminal dive. The SM-6's seeker locked. The missile closed. Impact seemed imminent. At the last moment, the Zafar executed a terminal maneuver, a sharp pull-up that changed its descent angle by 15 degrees. The maneuver was brief, lasting less than a second, but it was enough. The SM-6 passed beneath the Zafar and detonated. More fragments struck the Iranian missile. More damage accumulated. The Zafar's guidance system was partially disabled. Its precise targeting was degraded, but it was still diving toward the Spruance at over Mach 2. The Phalanx CIWS engaged at 1954-02. Against a target moving at Mach 2.8, the engagement window was measured in fractions of a second. The 20mm rounds reached toward the diving missile. some connected. Pieces broke away from the already damaged Zafar. At 1954-08, the Zafar struck the USS Spruance. The damaged missile had lost its precise guidance. It didn't hit where its targeting system had intended. Instead of striking the superstructure, where most anti-ship missiles aim, it struck the hull below the waterline, approximately 4 meters beneath the surface. In one sense, this was lucky. A superstructure hit would have killed more sailors, damaged more systems, potentially wrecked the ship's combat capability entirely. In another sense, it was catastrophic. A 200-kilogram warhead detonating below the waterline creates a breach that immediately floods. The Spruance had survived above waterline hits before. Fragment damage, near misses, glancing impacts. She had never taken a direct hit below the waterline. The breach was 3 meters wide and 2 meters high. The impact killed 2 sailors in the compartment directly behind the hull. Engineman 2nd Class Marcus Johnson, 29, and Engineman 3rd Class David Park, 25. They drowned in the initial flooding before anyone could reach them. The sea rushed in, 500 gallons per minute, then 1,000 as the breach widened under pressure, then more as structural damage allowed water to find new paths into the ship. Captain William Chang reached the CIC at 1956, 108 seconds after impact. He found a ship in crisis. "Give me a damage report," he ordered. The answers were grim. Flooding in compartments 3, 47, 2L, and 351, 4L, spreading to adjacent spaces. Pumps engaged, but overwhelmed. List developing to starboard, 4 degrees, and increasing. 2 confirmed dead, 6 missing. Trapped in flooded compartments, or unaccounted for in the chaos. 11 wounded. Propulsion intact. Weapons intact. But the ship was sinking. "How long do we have?" Chang asked. The chief engineer's response was the kind of brutal honesty that defines damage control situations. "Sir, if we can isolate the flooding at frame 52, we stabilize. If we can't, we have maybe 90 minutes before we lose the ship. 90 minutes to save the Spruance, or 90 minutes to abandon her." Captain Chang made 2 decisions in rapid succession. First, all available personnel to damage control. Strip the weapons stations if you have to. We're saving this ship. Second, he grabbed the 5th Fleet command net. 5th Fleet, Spruance actual. We are hit below the waterline. 2 KIA confirmed. 6 missing. Ship is flooding. I am fighting to save her. Simultaneously, I am initiating retaliation against the launch site. The missile was new, fast, maneuvering. We've never seen it before. Recommend expanded strike against development and production facilities. Spruance out. At 1959, while his crew fought to keep the ship from sinking, Captain Chang ordered weapons release. The Spruance carried Tomahawk cruise missiles in her forward VLS cells. Those cells were in the forward section of the ship, away from the flooding aft. They were fully operational. 4 Tomahawks launched at 1959, 14, 1959-18, 1959-22, and 1959-26. Target, the missile battery near Jask that had fired the Zafar. The ship was taking on water. Her list had increased to 6 degrees. Her crew was sealing compartments, rigging pumps, fighting the sea with everything they had. And her missiles were flying toward the enemy. Vice Admiral Richardson received Chang's report at 20:01. The mention of a new missile, fast, maneuvering, previously unknown, triggered an immediate intelligence review. By 2008, analysts had compiled what they knew. The Zafar had been developed at a facility near Shiraz, the same facility that the B-2s had struck months earlier. That strike had destroyed the Guidance Research Center, but left the main production complex intact. Iran had rebuilt faster than expected, and they had deployed the Zafar before American intelligence realized the weapon was operational. Richardson authorized an expanded strike at 2011. Primary targets: the Jask launch battery, already targeted by Chang's Tomahawks; the Zafar production facility near Shiraz, the test range where the missile had been validated. Secondary targets: 2 suspected storage facilities where additional Zafars might be kept. the assets were positioned. The USS Florida, a guided missile submarine operating in the Arabian Sea, launched 12 Tomahawks at 2015. Target, the production facility. Two B-1B Lancers, airborne from Diego Garcia, diverted from a training mission. They carried 48 JDAMs between them. Targets, the test range and the storage facilities. 4 FA-18E Super Hornets launched from the Eisenhower at 2019. Target, the JASC launch battery, reinforcing Chang's Tomahawks. At 2029, 31 minutes after the Spruance was hit, the first American weapons arrived. Captain Chang's Tomahawks struck the JASC battery first. 4 missiles on a target area 100 meters in diameter. The launcher vehicles that had fired the Zafar were destroyed. The radar that had guided it was wrecked. The command vehicle that had coordinated the attack was obliterated. The Super Hornets arrived 3 minutes later with additional ordnance. Their JDAMs struck the support facilities, ammunition storage, fuel, maintenance equipment. The battery was eliminated. At 2041, the Florida's Tomahawks reached the Shiraz production facility. This target was hardened, underground sections, reinforced concrete, lessons learned from the previous American strike. The Iranians had rebuilt their weapons programs in structures designed to survive attack. 12 Tomahawks weren't enough to destroy it completely, but they were enough to set the program back. The above-ground structures collapsed. Access tunnels were cratered. Power systems were wrecked. The facility would need months of repair before resuming production. At 2047, the B-1Bs arrived at their targets. The test range at Semnan received 24 JDAMS, 500-pound weapons, saturating the launch pads, tracking facilities, and instrumentation buildings. Iran's ability to test new missiles was significantly degraded. The storage facilities received the remaining bombs. One facility was confirmed destroyed. Satellite imagery later showed Zafar missile bodies in the wreckage. The other facility appeared to be a decoy. Empty buildings designed to attract American attention. The Iranians were learning. So were the Americans. By 2055, the strike was complete. The damage assessment would take days to compile fully, but the immediate results were clear. 1 Zafar launch battery, destroyed. 1 production facility, severely damaged. 1 test range, destroyed. 1 storage facility, destroyed. 1 decoy, destroyed. Estimated Iranian casualties, 100 to 140 personnel. The USS Spruance, meanwhile, was still fighting. The damage control teams had performed miracles. They had isolated the flooding at frame 54, 2 frames short of the worst-case scenario, but containment nonetheless. The list had stabilized at 11 degrees, severe but survivable. The pumps were winning. Barely. At 21:30, Captain Chang reported to 5th Fleet, "Spruance will survive. Flooding contained. List stable. We're not sinking tonight." The relief was palpable across the fleet, but the cost was real. 2 sailors had drowned in the initial flooding. 4 more who had been reported missing were found dead in sealed compartments. They had helped close watertight doors, saving the ship, and died when they couldn't escape in time. 6 dead. Not from the missile directly, from the sea that rushed through the hole the missile made. Boatswain's mate. 2nd Class Jennifer Williams, 26. Damage Controlman, 3rd Class Thomas Rodriguez, 24. Hull Maintenance Technician, 3rd Class Sarah Park, 23. Fireman Robert Chen, Divdesmit Viens. They died saving their ship. Their sacrifice kept the Spruance afloat. The destroyer made way toward Bahrain at 6 knots, the fastest speed her damaged hull could safely manage. The journey took 28 hours. Her crew pumped water continuously the entire way. The repair assessment was extensive. The hull breach required dry dock work, cutting away damaged plating, replacing structural members, welding new steel. 6 months minimum. The families of the 6 dead sailors received flags and letters and the grateful thanks of a navy that could never truly repay their loss. The Zafar missile program was set back by the strikes, but not destroyed. Iran would rebuild. They always rebuilt. But they would rebuild knowing that deploying new weapons brought immediate American retaliation. The Zafar had cost them a launch battery, a test range, severe damage to their production facility, and over 100 personnel. The exchange rate remained brutal. The July 2nd engagement demonstrated several things. First, Iran continued to innovate. New weapons, new capabilities, new surprises. American intelligence couldn't track everything. Second, American ships could survive attacks that should have sunk them. The Spruance took a hit below the waterline and lived. That was a testament to her construction and her crew. Third, American retaliation came regardless of the ship's condition. Captain Chang launched Tomahawks while fighting to save his ship from sinking. The response wouldn't wait for the crisis to end. 31 minutes from impact to retaliation. 31 minutes from flooding to strike complete. That's the standard. That's the expectation. That's why Iran's new missile program was gutted before it could threaten more ships. The Spruance returned to service 9 months later. Her captain received the Navy Cross. Her crew received the Presidential Unit Citation. Her dead received honors and memorials and the eternal gratitude of shipmates who survived because of their sacrifice. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next one.